Hey guys. Well, in honor of Spirit Week this week, I decided to break out my Batman and I have my cape. So, yeah, that's why I'm dressed in my superhero PJs. Alright, so we are reading Whatshisface and we are on chapter 15. So let me see how far. Alright, so we'll do 15 and 16. Seems like a lot happens in these two chapters, okay? Chapter 15, Hipping and Hopping. So they give you a little bit of the play that's going to happen, a little bit of advertising for the kids. Somerset Wolfson III welcomes you to the Capulets Ball in honor of the cast and crew of Romeo and Juliet. Keep up the good work. Wow, Cooper says to Mr. Marchese, who's greeting the 7th graders at the door to the gym. Is Mr. Wolfson here? It gets a big laugh from the students in line behind Cooper. Are you kidding, Aiden crows? The wolf never slums us with common people. He just picks up the tab. Aiden, the director, is disapproving. We don't call Mr. Wolfson by that nickname, and besides, you're wrong about that. He comes to our performance every year, because that's Shakespeare, Aiden reasons. He's president of the Guys Fans Club. They say he's got Shakespeare's sweaty underwear hidden away in the museum of his, pipes up another one of the soccer players. Cooper snickers. Mr. Marchese smiles tolerantly. We'll find out soon enough. We'll be visiting the museum before the show. Although, he adds, I've taken the tour many times. No underwear, sweaty or otherwise. The things boys say for a giggle. It must be in a secret collection, Aiden announced, that one nobody's allowed to see. I'll bet he talks to it. I bet he wears it on his head before he sleeps at night. The director makes a face. That's just gross. Have fun, boys. Don't forget to take one of these. He holds out a carton full of colorful cardboard masks. Remember, the Capulets party was a masquerade ball. That's how Romeo and the Montagues were able to sneak in. Once inside, Roddy asks Cooper to take out his phone, so mine eyes will behold the splendor of the ballroom. All right, Cooper whispers, but you're in for a letdown. What manner of a ball is this, the ghost complains. What are the banners and the tapestries and the candelabra? 'Tis not a ballroom at all. 'Tis but a gymnasium in half darkness with a paltry assortment of colored streamers dangling from basketball turrets. School parties are always lame, Cooper tells him apologetically. I see no minstrels, Roddy goes on. When beginneth the music, this is rhythmic pounding, doth bludgeon my ears. That is music, Cooper explained. It's called hip-hop. It's pretty good. You're just not used to it. Aye, this cannot be so. The boy standeth by yonder wall, which thou maiden standeth opposite. Yet they danceth not. That's pretty standard too, Cooper informs them. The last thing anyone wants to do at a school dance is dance. Thy world is magical, Cooper Vega, yet the people in it tireth my understanding. The mass may have helped Romeo crash the Capulets party, but for 7th graders who see one another every day, a small oval of cardboard isn't much of a disguise. Cooper can't miss Brock's, hey, check out Whatshisface, and is happy to hear Jolie calling him his name and waving from the other side of the gym. Roddy sees her too. Thou shalt say to her that her beauty doth but put to shame the rose. You look nice, he shouts back at her. Thou art hopeless, the ghost sighs through the earbud. A lifeless stone knoweth more of love than thee. Thou must lead her into the dance. I'm not going to do that, Roddy. I'll look like an idiot. Eventually, the teachers get so fed up with the boys and girls separated into 2 armed camps that they try to move things along by dancing themselves. If they expect this to inspire the students to follow their example, they're sorely disappointed. There's a lot of chuckling and even some finger pointing, but the cast and crew of Romeo and Juliet keep to their opposite sides of the gym. They may be putting on a romantic play, but that's where the romance ends. At last, the teachers resort to desperate measures. Mr. Marchese pulls Brock from a usual group of friends and marches him out of the gym. Mrs. Vostrov does the same thing with Jolie. A few minutes later, the 2 lead actors are back in full costume. It does the trick. 2 Stratford 7th graders are never going to ask each other to dance, but for Romeo and Juliet, it's the most natural thing in the world. Of course the players, star-crossed lovers, never dance to rap, but that doesn't seem to matter. The entire cast and crew cluster around Jolie and Brock, clapping to the beat, and soon everyone's moving to the music, individually and in groups, swaying and stomping and gyrating until it feels as if the very gym floor is vibrating under their feet. The sight of Jolie resplendent in Juliet's pale blue gown dances with Brock is enough to make Cooper's skull hurt. He points the GX4000 in their direction so that Roddy can see them too. Look at him, Cooper sees. He put the bum in Baumgartner. What a knave. There's no response from the phone. The screen is dark. Cooper looks around and finally locates Roddy, a shimmering silhouette swirling around the dancers. Roddy has let himself out again, and this time in front of every 7th grader in town. Obviously, Cooper can't chew out the ghost here, and besides, the music is too loud for Roddy to have any chance of hearing him. So he holds the phone high above the crowd, hoping that Roddy will spot it and get the message. Get back in or else. It doesn't catch Roddy's attention, but he's the only one to miss it. The dancers take out their phones, extend them over their heads, and start snapping pictures. Flashes burst in all directions, and the DJ gets into the spirit and skills the lights. The effect is mesmerizing. Strobe lit bodies gyrating in what looks like a staccato slow motion, and atop it all, like smoke above a battlefield, one 16th century ghost, his puff-sleeved arms and pantaloon legs grooving to the beat. Cooper stands in agony, waiting for someone to point straight up and holler, "Hey, what's that?" But no one does. The scene is wild. The camera's flashes too blindly for anybody to notice the dimly glowing mass of electroplasm swirling overhead, nor can they tell when Roddy's specter is ripped out of the air and sucked back into the GX4000. As the party rages on, Cooper glares in fury at the ghost now on the screen again. "Are you crazy? Somebody could have seen you." "Oh, Cooper Vega," Roddy's actually panting. "Methinks this is hipping and hopping is the most excellent entertainment. Perchance this be music in truth." The click disappears behind the pounding beat as Roddy streams out of the phone and rejoins the dancers. Cooper can only watch helplessly and hope that the DJ's light covers up the swooping and swan diving that's taking place above them. There's no point in counting the Mississippis anymore. Seconds have turned into long minutes before Roddy is drawn back into the GX4000, only to catch his breath and launch himself free again. No wonder the ghost had time to investigate airplanes and fire hydrants and be chased by a cat. He's learning to extend his jumps outside the phone. As the Capulets ball rocks on from song to song, a few other cast members slink off to the wardrobe room and reappear in full costume, much to the delight of Mr. Marchese and the teachers. But there's no question that the focal point of the party lies with Romeo and Juliet. They dance every song, their eyes barely leave, and if you don't count the times Brock pans the gym with his puffed up smirk, making sure that everybody knows he's got Jolie Solomon wrapped around his little finger. When he finds Cooper, the grin becomes almost Grinch-like, twisting his cheeks until it seems as if his face might break. Cooper can't help thinking of the final lines of Romeo and Juliet, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo. Of course, Shakespeare was talking about the fact that they both died, but this feels pretty lousy too. Eventually, the DJ takes a break, and the teachers herd their cast members to a long buffet table for pizza and dessert. Roddy returns to the phone exhilarated. "I'm bereft. This hipping and hopping hath ended. Just while we eat," Cooper soothes, "you can get reffed again when the DJ comes back." The students, exhausted after a solid hour of nonstop dancing, fall on the pizza like starving sharks. Brock loads up a double-decker sandwich for 4 face-to-face slices. Mr. Vostrov rushes over with paper towels to keep them from decorating Romeo's costume with tomato sauce. "Why dost thou not dine, Cooper Vega?" the ghost asks. "Is this triangular flatbread not of thy liking?" "It's called pizza. I like it just fine, but something made me lose my appetite. See?" He angles the GX4000 in the direction of Jolie and Brock. In spite of the entire grade milling around, it's as if they're having an intimate dinner of two. "Thou shalt assert thyself," Roddy advises. "When the hipping and hopping resumeth, she must hip to thee. Also hop as if my latest observation that the two happen together. It's too late," Cooper laments. "'Tis never too late, even when the death cart cometh for thy sad remains. Behold, here I am." Brock reaches over to the DJ station, pulls out the microphone, and lets out an enormous belch. Magnified by the sound system, it makes the rafters ring. And then he bellows, his mouth still half full of pizza. I'm Romeo, wherefore art me? Cooper's seething. I hate when he does that. The teachers exchange wary glances. They don't mind their casting crew having a little fun, but when they should step in to keep things from getting out of hand. In the nick of time, Jolie leans into the mic and in a pleading tone recites Juliet's lines. Deny thy father, refuse thy name, or if thou wilt not, but be sworn my love. Yeah, Brock roars and repeats, wherefore art me? Tyler McCudu, who plays Mercutio, chimes in with the famous "a plague on both your houses" speech. Ruth Benitez James, Juliet's nurse, delivers her line, filled with ominous warnings. His name is Romeo, and a Montague, the only son of your great enemy. Wherefore art me, brays Brock, when it seems like too much he's gone by without putting his 2 cents in. Speak up, Roddy hisses in Cooper's ear. No chance. I wouldn't touch that with a 10-foot pole. Go forth and speak Romeo's line so that fair Jolie may see that art better than the buffoon. And before he can think through, Cooper's stepping forward to the microphone. Call me but love, and I'll be anew baptized. Henceforth I never will be Romeo. As Cooper speaks, Jolie's attention shifts from Brock to him. At first, her expression is surprise, and then she steps towards him and delivers Juliet's response. What man art thou that this be screened in night, so stumblest on my counsel? Brock tries to interpose another. Wherefore art me? But all eyes now are on Cooper and Jolie. Even another tremendous burp doesn't recover the crowd's attention. At a last resort, Brock recites the speechless along with Cooper. It's his part after all, and he should know it best, but he falters and Cooper continues on. Letter perfect. He and Jolie continue the scene line by line, Romeo and Juliet, while Brock struggles to keep up. At last, Mr. Marchese steps in, concerned about what Brock's angry face might lead to. That's enough, everybody. Rehearsals tomorrow. Tonight, we party. He signals to the DJ, and a few minutes later, the music is pounding. The dance floor is rocking, and Roddy is out there, flying high above their heads. Cooper feels a hand on his arm and looks up to see Aiden regarding him in wonder. Dude, how come you know that? You're one of the watchmen like me. Cooper shrugs. I've only got one line. That's a lot of time sitting around listening to other people act. I guess I just kind of picked it up. Yeah, but you're a natural, Aiden insists. All of these Shakespeare words, it's almost like you've got a little voice in your head, telling you exactly how it's supposed to sound. Cooper smiles. You have no idea. On the ride home in Captain Vega's car, Roddy can't stop raving about the most glorious evening since last I drew breath in the world, and the crowning moment was thy performance. 'Tis certain that fair Jolie will commence falling in love with thee at any moment. Cooper sighs. Roddy's great, but he has a lot to learn about 21st century girls. Oh boy. Chapter 16, The Wolfson Collection. Alright, let's see how this goes at the museum. Cooper stands in line, his hands jammed in his pockets, nervously waiting his turn to board one of the school buses. He can't believe none of the other 7th graders noticed the ghost crawling up the top of the lead bus, exploring every inch of the luggage rack. Luckily, it's bright, sunny days, so it's easy to mistake the pale glow that is Roddy as an errant trick of light. At last, Cooper reaches the door, steps into the vehicle, and the next thing he knows, his feet are knocked out from under him. He's flat on his back in the aisle of the empty driver's seat. His first thought is for the GX4000. What if it breaks and Roddy's got nowhere to go back to? What happens to the ghost then? He reaches into his pocket. Before he can draw out the phone, Brock's big face appears from an inch. Did you fall down, kid? Here, let me get you up. He holds out his hand, but when Cooper takes it, Brock's opposite elbow comes down against Cooper's sternum, pinning him to the dirty floor. Get off me, Cooper complains. Did you say something? Brock counters. Funny. The last time you talked, it came out all Shakespeare-y, like maybe you're trying to steal another guy's part. It's not my fault. I know your lines better than you do, Cooper shoots back. I think it kind of is, Brock tells him, still pressing down. You didn't learn them by accident, but this isn't about Romeo, isn't? It's about Juliet, and like I said before, forget it. As Cooper struggles to get Brock off him, a cloud of shimmering light swoops in through the open door, flashes into Brock's eyes, and with a cry, he falls backward and Cooper scrambles up. What was that? Brock demands. What did you just do? The faint glow slips into Cooper's pocket and disappears. Nothing, Cooper says innocently. Don't give me that. You flashed me with a laser pointer or something. How could I do that? Cooper counters. You were pinning me down. Hey, what's the holdup? Mr. Marchese comes pushing through the line. We're supposed to be on a schedule. You know that. He stops short at the sight of Cooper and Brock, obviously in confrontation. For sure he's thinking about the Capulets ball and how the DJ's microphone became a battleground for dueling Romeos. I don't have to remind you two, he says sternly, how important it is for us to be on our best behavior today. This is the one chance we get to see the largest exhibit of Shakespeare's material that exists in the world today. Remember, this is no ordinary museum. Where can you buy a ticket and walk in off the street? This is a private collection. It's a privilege for our school to be allowed to view it. One that can be taken away if we don't show a proper respect for the surroundings. Mumbling apologies, Cooper and Brock seat themselves on opposite sides of the aisle. The bus loads quickly and start for the Wolfson estate. Cooper takes out his phone so Roddy can enjoy looking out the finger-marked and flying-specked window during the 15-minute ride. At last, the bus passes through a set of magnificent wrought iron gates featuring an Old English W painted on the gleaming gold leaf. The roadway is lined with stately poplars and snakes through immaculately groomed gardens. The mansion is impressive, with its lead-paned windows and stone facade, but it's obvious that Mr. Wolfson's pride and joy, the focal point of the property, is the museum. It's designed as an Elizabethan palace in the form of an E. Mr. Marchese explains a long main building with large wings at each end and a smaller central wing that serves as the entrance. A sniffle comes through the earbud. If I knew not that I was in thy world, says Roddy in a shaky voice, I would wager my life that this was Howard House, home of the Duke of Norfolk. Of course, ne'er was I permitted inside such a structure, nor I the son of a warlock. The buses unload and the teachers herd the 7th graders into the museum. Cooper spies Jolie up ahead, walking beside Brock. Fine. Romeo's got his Juliet. Jolie turns around, scanning the crowd behind her, and waves when she spots Cooper. He waves back, but by the time he gazed has moved on, and he finds himself hailing Brock's unfriendly glare. Although the museum is dying to look as if it were built 100 years ago. The interior is elegant and modern. Stepping inside, the first thing the students see is a 12-foot-high bronze statue of William Shakespeare. There are oohs and ahs and cell phones appear snapping pictures. Cooper pulls out the GX4000 to give Roddy a view, but is careful to keep his finger off of the button. Roddy recognizes the figure immediately, and so we meet again, thou thief, thou snake in the grass, thou small brain cleaner of chamber pots. A curator welcomes them, ushering them 2 by 2 in a small theater for a video on the life and times of the bard. For the students who have spent all these weeks studying Shakespeare and learning Romeo and Juliet, it's actually pretty interesting, but Cooper hears barely a word of it. Roddy's ranting in the earbud, calling down curses and plagues on a pox that jumped up actor and false playwright who purloined my beautiful Barnabas and Ursula and turned it into a massacre. When the ghost stops raving, Cooper assumes it's because he ran out of words, having used them all, and the video goes on to the life of Somerset Wolfson, his obsession with everything Shakespeare. There are no longer handwritten manuscripts by Shakespeare himself in existence today. The only examples of the bard's signature are a few old legal documents now owned by Mr. Wolfson. Beyond that, the billionaire targeted the earliest published versions of Shakespeare's play, the 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th folios. In the centuries after Shakespeare's death, printers made changes in the text as they released new editions. Most of the changes were small, but they added up. That means that the 1st folio is the closest we'll ever get to what Shakespeare actually wrote. The Wolfson collection, the piece concludes, houses more of those 1st folios than any other museum in the world, and most than all other museums combined. When the lights come back on, Brock lets out one of his notorious "I'm Romeo, wherefore art me" announcements. He's shushed not just by the teachers, but also a handful of students, including Jolie. The tour begins, leading the students through stunning rooms with large glassed-in, climate-controlled cases. For a moment, even Roddy's complaints are silenced. Mayhap these pages were printed in mine own shop, he exclaims reverently. Perchance they were read by fair Ursula herself, and lo, yonder press might have been touched by those very hands. On the far side of the exhibit stands a 16th century printing press, in the process of inking a quadruple-size quarto page. There's an entire display devoted to paper in Elizabethan times. No two pages were quite the same. Different thicknesses, different cuts, different shades of white. With a click, Roddy leaves the GX4000, enters the case where the glass meets the plaster base. Cooper looks away, hoping that other eyes will follow his and not notice the ghostly form swirling inside the paper exhibit. Don't do that, Cooper, hisses once Roddy's back in the phone again. Forgive me, Cooper Vega. To see such a wealth of paper hath pierced me to my heart. Thy very sighteth make my fingers itch to write another play, but alas, to what purpose? Evil Shakespeare would come back from the tomb to steal my work not yet again. Despite Roddy's complaining, the ghost thoroughly enjoys the next gallery, which depicts Elizabethan daily life. There are examples of cloth that remind Cooper of the puffy shirt, vest, platoons, cap, and shoes that Roddy wears on the phone screen. The ghost points out the several styles of the dresses that adorned thy fair Ursula. At the sight of the mannequin of Queen Elizabeth I, Roddy propels himself out of the GX4000 and tries to kneel at her feet, hovering just a few inches off the floor. There are suits of armor, weapons, cooking utensils, plates, cutlery, and furniture. That dining table, Roddy exclaims in a hushed tone. 'Tis a perfect match for one we had in our kitchen. Maybe it's the same one, Cooper suggests in an undertone. Alas, no, Father's brimstone experiment number 12 caused it to explode most violently. I can attest to its superb quality, for it burned very slowly and gave off great heat. I guess brimstone experiment number 12 didn't go too well, huh? Cooper commiserates. 'Twas better than brimstone experiment number 13, Roddy laments. That was when my father was charged as a warlock. 'Tis a travesty that Alastair Northrop has been forgotten, whilst a charlatan like Shakespeare hath museums devoted to his false accomplishments. Roddy's mood improves when the curator leads the group out the back door into Mr. Wolfson's scale model of the Shakespeare Globe Theatre. Cooper is amazed at its size and sophistication. With a capacity of nearly 3,000, the original Globe was larger than most Broadway theaters. There are 3 tiers of seatings, a large ground level open-air pit surrounding the stage for standees who could not afford a ticket in one of the covered galleries. 'Twas my dream to see Barnabas and Ursula performed in such a place one day, said Roddy. Then you succeeded 1,000%. Cooper assures him, Romeo and Juliet is one of the most famous plays in history. It's been performed millions of times all over the world. Not my play, Cooper Vega, his. The class takes a few minutes to explore the theater, experimenting with some of their lines from stage while their classmates report on the acoustics from the pit and the various tiers. When Cooper reaches the stage, the glower he receives from Brock would easily melt lead. Mr. Macheeve shoots him a pleading look, the last thing the director needs in a war between 2 Romeos. Here's Romeo's man, Cooper delivers second watchman's line. We found him in the churchyard. This place is amazing, Jolie calls from the top balcony. I can hear you perfectly. Big whoop, rumbles Brock. What's-his-face remembers his gigantic speech. He remembers your gigantic speeches too, Aiden points out. Brock glares at him. I could remember all of those too if I studied. When the group re-enters the building, the students feel the blast of air conditioning immediately. It's much colder here than in the galleries they visited before, and the curator explains why. This room contains the most precious part of the Wolfson collection, the rare first folios, practically the voice of Shakespeare himself. The curator announces with reverence. Would that I could spit, Roddy seethes. Through the earbud comes a sound that only can be a Roddy trying his hardest to spit. Cooper fights down the urge to giggle. It's the biggest room they've been in so far, long with cathedral ceilings flooded with filtered natural light. Dozens of display cases dot the room, each one containing a first folio under heavy bulleted glass. The students are drawn to them like iron fillings to magnets, peering down at the words that were printed there hundreds of years before. The boisterous buzz of over 100 seventh graders diminishes to a murmur, and some of them read quietly. Most just stare. Shakespeare fan or no, everyone understands that they're looking at objects of incredible age and value. Cooper Vega, Roddy's voice is urgent in the earbud. There is something there. Yeah, Cooper whispers, the first folios. He holds up the GX4000 to give the ghost a better look. The ancient book is open to Hamlet, and Cooper can make out the line, to thine own self be true. Roddy said that once. Maybe the ghost had more in common with Shakespeare than he likes to admit. Not this rubbish, Roddy insists. I feel something of great strength beckoning me. One of the displays? Cooper asks. I know not, yet methinks I feel the attraction coming from beyond yonder door. Yonder? Cooper queries, and then he sees it. An interior wall stretches the full length of the gallery. It's white, featureless, with one exception. There is an almost invisible door at the far end, frameless, with no knob, only a recessed keyhole. The secret collection, Cooper exclaims. I understand this not. It's just a rumor, Cooper tells Roddy in a low voice, but everyone says the wolf has a whole stash of secret stuff that he can't display because he's not supposed to own it. Maybe what's calling you is something in there. And then a new voice, deep and resonant, but with a childlike enthusiasm, rings out through the galleries. Welcome to the Wolfson Collection. Into their midst strides a stocky man of medium height, a shock of white hair brushed straight back from his high forehead. Although he's never met the newcomer, Cooper recognizes him immediately from TVs and newspapers. It's Somerset Wolfson, their billionaire host. All right, maybe next time we'll find out. Is he going to be able to go into the place that holds the secret collection? And what really is calling Roddy or beckoning him to find out? Until next time.